I'm John Palmentary, and we're here in Carpinteria at Linden Avenue's classic seal fountain in the center of town with Gregg Carty, who is a candidate for the 5th District in the upcoming election. Morning, Gregg, and tell me the main reason you're running for the 5th District for the city of Carpinteria in this upcoming election.
It's a pleasure to be here. Carpinteria has a special place in my heart. I went to school here, I grew up here, my family lives here, and I understand how precious Carpinteria is and what we have. I will never forget that, and we are actually a shining jewel on the California coast, and I don't want to lose that. I often hear I want to keep Carpinteria the way it is, and I have a hard time understanding what that is, and I've lived here a long time and I've seen a lot of changes. One example, when I was in 3rd grade, the school got new buses, and on the corner of Linden and Carpinteria Avenue there was an old bank, a Mills Drugs, and 2 gas stations on the other corner, and we got buses, new buses, and they couldn't make that turn without backing up, and that was the only flashing red light signal that Carpinteria had at the time, a 4-way stop. So things have changed, and I have learned and matured to accept change, and I see that as a serious issue in Carpinteria, not accepting change, because we have people from everywhere wanting to visit here, move here, developers that are looking at every single parcel that they can look at and actually looking at buildings to tear down. There is a lot going on right now in the city that is kind of happening behind the scenes. And, you know, I'm concerned about saying no to development when we have to allow things to change, because there's no way to stop change. And if we say no, no, no to development, we need to look at every proposed development and look at it and what it brings to the community and what it can bring to the community, and as a whole, what do people want here? If we say no in the long run, that may be our city's golden jewel failure, that we'll get projects that are forced upon us that we actually can't have say-so in. They'll be attorney-backed developers. So that is happening now, and I think it might be a good time to do another. We had a Vision 2020 years ago. It might be a good time to do a Vision 2040 and look at the longer range of what we want our city to look like. I would be in favor of that. I love Carpinteria, and I can't say enough great things about it.
All right, how would you lead the city through the post-pandemic economic recovery?
Well, we actually weathered the pandemic quite well in Carpinteria, way better than almost any other community. We, during the pandemic, we offered financial assistance to just pretty much any business in Carpinteria, and we took that from our reserves, which is our rainy day fund, which what more of a rainy day could have that been? So we've actually spent that money, and we've actually restored the reserves back to where they were. And it's through this whole serious epidemic thing, you know, I've seen Carpinterians support you know, the people that have been negatively affected by the pandemic. And I strongly support our service groups, our clubs, our nonprofits, our volunteers on what they have done during the pandemic. And they actually helped lead us through it, and they're actually leading us through post-pandemic. And I can't say enough things. I'm at awe what our clubs and groups do in Carpinteria.
Okay, in a time of growing community conflicts over possible changes along with other stresses such as housing costs, what will your style be to resolve these issues and retain unity?
Well, I always have, I will study all the issues. I will gather all the facts. I will listen to the experts. I will strongly listen to the community, and sometimes there'd be a little compromise there, and and I will always treat others as I would want to be treated myself, with respect.
What are you most pleased about in Carpinteria that you will continue to fight for, preserve, make new laws to protect?
Well, that's an interesting question, because the first part, and there's a second part, but Carpinteria, the first part, what are you most pleased with? I can't say enough about what I'm pleased with. We have over 100 acres of open space, not including the salt marsh, not including our beach, and that's something I'm really proud of, and I'm very fortunate that we don't have to fight for that, because we already have it. But one thing that comes to mind that I'm really kind of shaken up about, actually, is preserving our agriculture in the valley. You know, there's the city limits, but then there's the Carpinteria Valley, and I consider it all one, but there's the city limits, and I want to make sure that our agriculture stays strong in the Carpinteria Valley.
One of the biggest changes in Carpinteria in recent years has been the Highway 101 freeway project. How do you feel about it so far, and what are your views about it going forward as it relates to Carpinteria?
Well, an interesting thing is when I was a toddler, the freeway was new back then, and that's the one that was pre this one, and it's only been there since the late 50s, and that was probably more of an impact than this one, relative to the size of Carpinteria and deal with all that. But one thing I do like about it is when I was on the design review committee when it was planned, and Caltrans and SPCAG, they were at all those meetings, and they actually listened to it, and I see a lot of those designs in the project. Like, for instance, the two bridges, we tried really hard to get an arch in those bridges, and they said that we couldn't, and then finally one engineer said that I can make them look like an arch. So if you look at it, that's what happened. And then I like that the landscaping, and you know, it breaks my heart to see such a big freeway through our little community, but it's what people want in California, and it's what they need. And we participated, and they let us, but it was going to happen if the state was going to put it through, if they had our input or not. And it's created a lot of thoroughfares through Carpinteria that have made the traffic flow much better. And we've actually acquired a piece of property over there, which I'd love to see. It has avocados on it, and it's city property. And I would love to see the Carpinteria High School FFA be involved with raising those trees, and another community garden there. So there are quite a few good things that have come about with the freeway. Traffic's going to flow smoother. I kind of wish that we were a little more, because the project was titled Lane in a Train, and I want to see the train part proceed a little quicker than it is, because it get more people out of their cars.
Okay. This is Carpinteria City Council candidate for the 5th District, Gregg Carty, on the ballot in November. I'm John Parliamentary here in Carpinteria.